Who's to blame for the entire Nico Iamaleava situation? We're going to break that down right here on the Portal Podcast.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Today's show is 100% about the Nico situation. We're going to have a really special guest to help us break that down, but let me give you the backdrop. Nico Iamaleava is a great kid. This is not his situation alone. There are a lot of people involved, and we're going to explain that and why Josh Heupel, quite frankly, has set the precedent for college football coaches. But now, who follows it? Does anybody else give in to these kind of demands? And to figure out all of that right here and right now, Mr. Eric Cain, Locked On Vols. Eric, how you doing today, sir?
A little busy, Brian, as I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah, your situation is really bizarre. And as I noted in the opening, you and I talked about this off air, and I just want to clear the air on this. It's pretty easy to throw darts at Nico right now because he is technically the quarterback that just left the University of Tennessee amidst numerous rumors. But let's cut to the chase. There was some kind of NIL negotiation that went wrong. That's the safest, easiest way to put this. To be clear, I've been around Nico. He's a great dude. I do not believe that he is the beginning point for where all of this started. Now, I could be wrong, and maybe he called his dad and said, can we get some more money? I could be wrong. I don't know.
No.
Knowing him around 7-on-7 tournaments and his personality, he's not a pushy kid. I have a feeling those around him, maybe it's an agent, maybe it's a family member, whatever, they were the starting point for this renegotiation, if you will. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, even if Nico was involved a little bit in the talks or whatever, he's not leading the charge here. I completely agree. And it's the last couple of days, and you've seen there, it's expected, right? Like you're the player at the end of the day. Nico being the player, being the quarterback, he could have stepped up anytime to, whoever, agent, family, friends, whatever, and say, hey, no, enough's enough. Like, I'm good. Let's stay here. Like, I'm good. At the end of the day, he could have really heavily influenced how this thing went. And maybe he tried to, I don't know. But my point is, it's not just the quarterback. You're seeing Nico get bashed on social media, and some of it's warranted, some of it's expected. It kind of comes with the territory, I guess is what I'm saying, okay? But it is not just a young man's decision. There are multiple things in play here. And so I think, as you pointed out, I think Nico's a good kid. I think he's a sharp kid. I think he's a good quarterback. I think that there's another gear there to where eventually he's going to be a great quarterback, But this is not just a one-man show. This is a situation where there's many, many different players involved, and I think we should all kind of remember that moving forward. Having said that, though, he's the name, he's the face of what's going on right now, and a possible course correction, as you were kind of getting to there. He was the poster boy initially with name, image, and likeness, the first high-profile guy to get a high-profile deal. Now he's kind of the first high-profile guy that where a team's like, we're good. We're good, man. We're going to move on. We're good. Enough's enough. Sand, line, we're not passing it. And so it's kind of a full circle moment, really. It's unfortunate. I don't think there's a winner here, okay? I think Tennessee absolutely won the day in how they handled it. I think Josh Heupel was phenomenal the other day, but there's no winners here. It's a gross situation. It's an unfortunate situation, both for Tennessee right now, looking ahead to next season, and for the young man in Nico Iamaleava, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree. You probably hit that about as well as you could, because without digging into it more, and to be honest, I don't even want to make the phone calls. I know enough Tennessee people to do. I don't have the interest.
Yeah.
This is bad enough. I don't need to know more and lose sleep over it, because that leads to the next part. And then we'll talk about this over the next 5 or 10 minutes. Nico aside, we know he's got, by the way, maybe the strongest arm I've ever seen at the high school level. It's insane. So I understand why he was so heavily recruited and all that. But Nico aside, do you think this will be a trend, Eric, where, okay, some guys are maybe thinking about doing this as well, and they see this, it will not necessarily relegate to zero, but really push back on anybody saying, you know what, we need more money, especially like trying to negotiate during spring ball and all that. You need to have that done over the, like, soon as the bowl game's done. If you can't get it done a few weeks after that while they start training, they go through mat drills, that every school has that stuff. By spring ball, it's got to be done.
Yeah.
So I absolutely cannot stand that he missed like how it ended. That part drove me nuts. And I don't think it was Nico on that either, to be honest. I think he was asked to do that. But do you think other schools are going to be like not as worried now because Josh Heupel took a stand?
We'll see. I think this is going to be really, really interesting, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, the fact that this is happening and playing out right now, it's April 14th, the time of this recording. It was April 12th, Tennessee had the Orange and White game. It was April the 11th, Tennessee had its final spring practice when Nico Iamaleava was a no-show, and at that point, didn't show up. I mean, he was at offensive coordinator Joey Halsley's house the night before, who's also his quarterback's coach, with the other quarterbacks, George McIntyre, Jake Merklinger, had dinner, hung out, fellowship. All that was great. Apparently, I mean, I saw a picture they posed, on the front steps of the house, and that was Thursday night. And then you go to Friday morning, and there's a no-show from Nico. Pick up the phone, call him, nothing, no communication. And at that point, it's like, okay, that this is what it is, and you got to make a clean break and move on, kind of snap and clear mentality. As far as that course correction, I hope so. I really do. And a lot of this, I think, has to deal with the house settlement and all that and what comes of that and all that. So there's some unknowns here. But it is strictly the Wild Wild West right now. And I am all for it. Like, and here's the deal, and I'm sure I've said this before as well. The fact that Nico and Nico's camp was renegotiating his deal, I have no issue with that. Like, that is your right. Your value is what somebody will pay you. And I'm all for these guys getting money. They deserve it. That's all fine. It's the timing of it. It's also different with Nico to where, sure, the market reset, and I understand that, but his starting point was still around $2 million. So it's not like he was making $400,000 to begin with. But I'm all for it. Like, it's the right to renegotiate a deal because your value is what somebody's going to pay you. It's not right to abandon your team. It's not right to no-show at practice, and that's kind of when this whole thing went sideways. So I hope that this is kind of a course correction because it is the Wild Wild West out there. It is player empowerment, and again, I'm all for players being empowered. I'm all for this era we're in, but it's too much. And in the basis of this whole thing, Brian, is the stupid spring transfer portal window. Get rid of that. This isn't happening, or maybe it happens in December. But if it happens in December, that's normal. You have 9 months. You have spring practice. You have all this time for a new quarterback to come in, learn the system, win the locker room, win the starting job, and move forward. If this happened in December, okay, but it's the stupid spring window. This is why coaches hate it right now. So it's the Wild Wild West. I hope it's a course correction. But at the end of the day, if you want to blame anybody, I guess it can go back to the NCAA and how you let all this get to this point right now to where all the players can literally walk in, doesn't matter what time it is, what time of the year, and say, I want more money or I'm gone. And that's kind of where we are. And then it allows you to because on Wednesday of this week, it opens for 9 days, and players can go anywhere else they want to.
You said something there that was interesting that led to another interesting point, the house settlement. For those that don't follow it, obviously this is my realm because I run the Portal podcast, but the house settlement's going to be somewhere around $20.5 million for an athletic department. Probably most schools, 60 to 70% of that conservatively is going to, guess what? Pigskin. University of Tennessee, I guarantee it. They would like to make it 80% if they could, I'd imagine. But anyway, Tennessee's very unique. They got basketball and they got other sports that they're good at on both sides of the ledger.
It's an all-everything school, but another interesting point that we don't have to hit on right now, how can an all-everything school sustain in this era with rev share? It's going to be tough.
That's a great topic for another day because recruiting demands, like spending on recruiting, everything, that is true. But you mentioned the house settlement. Is that one of the reasons that Nico's camp jumped into this and thought, well, they got more money coming. He's your starting quarterback. This will be year 2, possibly. But even more importantly, looking at this, it's the whole timing. And then with timing, I'm talking about the portal window in the spring. I know a lot of coaches, they were either A or B. A, they want it because after spring, if you're really at a disadvantage at a spot, you can go get somebody. Okay. But I talked to a coach face-to-face the other day that told me flat out his team's spring game was not going to be on TV 100% because they didn't want other coaches looking at their up-and-coming players and then trying to make them offers under the table. Beginning and end of conversation.
Yep.
That is face-to-face. He didn't even – it was just – I asked him, what's going on with the spring, what not on TV. He didn't – it was like a 1/10 of a second he started his answer.
Yeah. And, I mean, coaches don't like the spring portal window. They don't. In terms of the house, and did that get Nico in its camp to kind of accelerate this? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not privy to those conversations or anything. I do think that there's a couple reports out there that he got a raise in December. He did not, to my understanding. Still working on the the first deal he did as a high schooler. But I don't know the answer to that. I do know that the spring portal window, it's just take Tennessee, for example. Tennessee needs a wide receiver. Tennessee needs a defensive tackle, and you thought Tennessee might need a cornerback. Well, you played spring, okay, and Tennessee doesn't feel like right now that necessarily needs a corner. Absolutely needs a wide receiver, much like quarterback. You just need a body. And then defensive tackle, man, you were playing this spring, and I'm sure Tennessee's not the only school, but like half its roster was in street clothes, right? I mean, if you have a hangnail, you're not going through spring drills. Tennessee had like 4 defensive tackles in spring. And so, like, you just need another body there. But you play spring and you kind of find those answers out a little bit, and then you can go attack and address in the transfer portal. Tennessee's certainly going to do that, and obviously going to be doing that at the quarterback position right now. But outside of that, and like still, if you're going to be that's why Nico's such a unicorn in this thing. You don't see a player of his position, of his caliber, of his experience enter the transfer portal right now. Wherever he goes, UCLA, North Carolina is the hot topic on Monday. I saw a Tulane logo. I mean, wherever he goes, he's going to be asked to win the job, win the locker room, learn the offense, all that, before stepping foot on the practice field, a true practice field in August. Like, it's going to be ridiculously hard. And so it's such a weird avenue to where it does more for your program, the spring portal window. It does more to harm your program than it does to help your program. So the fact that all this kind of got highlighted and accelerated a little bit, yeah, it's absolutely because the spring window is right here. Because as a player, you have more leverage. It's I again wasn't in these conversations, but it's, hey, I want this. Oh, I'm not going to get this. Oh, portal window's open on the 16th. See you later. It's another thing there to back the players in kind of getting more money in those negotiation talks.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the demand for quarterbacks, if that had any play in the whole Nico situation, and what's next for college football. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Moderate Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Moderate Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. For instance, there's probably something, just like with me, that you spend on that you shouldn't. I used to eat out way too much. Moderate Money is something you can use to keep all your expenses in one place, so you know where you're really spending your money. And you can even do that with your partner as well. You can set your accounts together under Moderate Money to set goals and save cash. Take control of your finances with Moderate Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at moderatemoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's moderatemoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Eric, there is a demand for quarterbacks every year. And I'm actually literally in preparation. This is hilarious. The 23 class that Nico was in was a really good quarterback year.
Yeah.
Out of the top 8 quarterbacks by 24/7, just off the top of your head, how many of them do you think are still at their first school from that class?
Just
Nico
one.
Yeah,
it's
Arch.
Yeah.
You saw that. I told people this recently, that forever quarterbacks have transferred roughly at about a 50% clip, because you go and play one guy. It's just it is what it is. But now with the money and all that, and a lot of people getting in people's ear, I think kids, and I remember like Nico was a teenager when all this was started out of high school. And I don't even know if he's 20 yet, but I guess he's about 20 years old. He's still a very young man. People can influence you with this. So here's my question to you. Demand for quarterbacks is a generic term, but do you think there will be more of a demand for transfer quarterbacks that have more experience / they don't have a posse, they ain't got a whole bunch of people around them? I think I think it's a heck yes because of this. Where do you stand on that?
I just think in general, like if you have the opportunity, like Rick Barnes, we kind of joke around it, here in Knoxville. He absolutely loves coaching veteran players. It's like that movie Draft Day with whatever the head coach's name was. Like, I can't win with rookie quarterbacks. It's like, why would you want to? You still have to. That's the backbone of any program. Recruit, sign, develop. Out of high school, that is. But from a key position of need, like a quarterback position, if you can go find a guy that's got a year or two of experience under his belt, that has been battle tested, that has done that, seen that, and you can go and add and plug and play to your offense right now. Not only are you getting a guy that you don't kind of have to teach and grow and mold already, you still do, but not from the ground up. You get a guy that can help accelerate your program. I mean, if it wasn't for Hendon Hooker, who knows how long Tennessee's rebuild would have took in 2021. And it was Joe Milton. It was Joe Milton that actually came in May from Michigan because he was not the starting quarterback for the Wolverines. And he won the job for Josh Heupel to start the 2021 season, gets hurt in game 2. Hendon Hooker takes over. That's all she wrote. Sometimes it's all about having the quarterback, the right quarterback for your system. And Tennessee won 7 games that year when everybody picked him to win like 3 or 4 because it was a train wreck. It was abysmal. And then, of course, they won 10 games and all that the next year, and had a phenomenal year in 2022. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's obviously a huge demand for portal quarterbacks. And if you can get a portal quarterback that doesn't have a whole lot of drama, and I understand there's drama everywhere, and there's posses and agents and all that. It's this era. But if you can find one of those that's just a guy that loves ball, and sure, he's going to take some money, but he's going to come in and be a leader. And, I mean, yeah, you take that 10 out of 10 for sure because you can go – it's like win now mode. You go win now, and you don't have to work and develop and kind of build up. Like Tennessee with David Sanders. Tennessee was, of course, going to take David Sanders, offensive tackle, obviously, because he was great and they wanted him. But, like, that's going to be a building up process. He is going to be much better in week 10 than he is in week 1, as a true freshman. You don't have to start over like that with a transfer quarterback. So I think the demand is through the roof through transfer quarterbacks.
Couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, that leads back to something we talked about a minute ago, the tampering with the spring window. My prediction, and I don't know how this will go, either next spring or the spring after, there won't be a portal window in the spring. But the problem is you're going to have so many petitions for kids that want to get in because they didn't win a starting job. There's no way to make it perfect. There's just not. Somebody has to lose in this. But if you're going to get rid of tampering, the only way to do it is to get rid of the spring window. That's first. Secondarily, it'll make young men make better decisions out of high school. A lot of these guys, and some of the schools have wised up on this, they'll sign with a school in December. They're going to enroll in January, and that's fine. They get paid a whole bunch. They don't like their position at the end of spring. They already got the bag. They enter the spring window. That'll eliminate some of that. They have to give the schools back a little bit of, with guardrails. That's the common phrase. The schools got to get a little more control because players are just running amok, and there's no academics in this at all. I mean, it's a complete joke. It's a complete joke.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but I really don't think that I am because coaches hate dealing with this stuff. And I talk to some of these people face to face. Like, these are just A to B conversations. Some of the best ones I've had are 15 seconds or less. Like, they have no interest in the portal window in the spring. But anyway, last thing for you, Eric, and I'll get you out of here on that. Tennessee, their win total this year was going to be 8.5, 9.5, depending on which, Fanduel or what have you. Do you think if Merklinger ends up being the quarterback, they could be a bowl team? Like, I don't think he's anywhere near ready to be the starting quarterback in Tennessee because hardly any sophomore would be ready. Do they have to get a portal quarterback that can start, or could he be the guy? Where do they stand at the quarterback position?
It's a great question, man. When you lose your starting quarterback, and again, this is what I'm trying to reiterate this entire week. It's like, was Nico what he was hyped up to be last year? No, he was not. Was he horrible? No, he was not. What he was a guy with unbelievable talent that made a lot of throws to win you a couple big games. Alabama comes to mind. He was a part of a team. Was he the reason? No, but the defense and running game was. But he was the starting quarterback for your team that went to a college football playoff. Okay, started every game. What you're losing is a guy with unbelievable talent that has starting experience at this level. And I understand people are mad right now. People are saying, I'll let him walk. Like, I get all that. But that is a ginormous loss on April the 14th. It's a huge loss. So Where do you go from here? It's $1 million question. You got Jake Merklinger, who's had a fantastic spring, even before the Nico situation took place. I did a practice report on all the ones that we could see, and there wasn't a day that Jake Merklinger's name wasn't mentioned. He's changed some things mechanically. I think he's growing with some confidence. I think he's had a really good spring. Does that mean he's ready to step in and be the starting quarterback for a college football playoff contender? I'm with you. Probably not. But he is the leader in the clubhouse right now. He's the most experienced guy in terms of in the system. Not a whole lot of experience in games when you compare him to George McIntyre, who is an early enrollee, true freshman. And everything's spinning for him right now. Had a good orange and white game, but that was a glorified practice where you can't touch the quarterbacks. But everything's spinning for him. He's got good days and bad days, just like a young quarterback at this stage would be. Tennessee 100% has to go to the transfer portal to get a quarterback, simply because you have 2 scholarship quarterbacks on your roster. That's not good enough. But again, there's not Nico's in the portal. Nico is the only Nico in the portal. I mean, is there a sitting backup power 4 quarterback that doesn't be like, opportunity there? Let's maybe dip my toe in there and see if there's any interest. I think that's going to be the case. Several backup quarterbacks and everything, but it's going to be very hard for a sitting power 4 starting quarterback, for much less not even a college football playoff team, that would want to take that gamble on April the 16th when it opens. Because again, your end goal is to get to the league. You can make some money here and you can win some games, and college football is amazing, but your end goal is to get to the league. So why would you put yourself and take that big risk, especially if you're in a contract year? So we'll see what happens. Tennessee's going to get somebody from the transfer portal. Who will it be? I don't know. The hope and the prayer and what you want is you go get a guy that can come in and compete and make this a real great quarterback competition and come in and start. But at the bare minimum, you've just got to get a quarterback. So the win total, how this affects, and I'm going to have this show at some point this week. It's really interesting right now because Tennessee was at 9.5 per Fanduel before the Nico situation. Right now, it's at 8.5. Depending on who Tennessee gets from the portal, does that change? I don't know. We just have no way of knowing that right now. But to sit here and say that Tennessee didn't take a big hit for its chances in 2025, I mean, you're fooling yourself. Tennessee's going to have a good defense. Tennessee's going to have a good run game. I think the offensive line. Another thing, and I know you're trying to get out the door here, and I apologize.
You're fine.
Is there anybody else that follows? Wendell Moy came in here from Arizona. He's a Polynesian culture as well. Those 2 guys attended the same high school briefly, but they attended the same high school. Where's he at right now? He came here to play with Nico. Where's he at right now? I don't know. Mike Matthews, we know about the transfer portal saga, with him flirting with it back in December. Where's his head right now after all this? I don't know. So it's interesting to think about how the Nico situations affects the win-loss total in the college football playoff perspectives, just because we don't know. We'll have a better idea of how this roster is affected here in the coming weeks. But at the end of the day, Tennessee's still going to have a pretty salty defense. Tennessee's going to have a good run game. I think Tennessee's offensive line can be better. And at bare minimum, if you have a game manager, a Kerry Collins with the Tennessee Titans back in 2008, you can win you some games. Can you win the big ones? I don't know. You can win you some games, but it's going to be interesting to see kind of how all that unfolds. And more questions than answers right now, but certainly you're not lacking for entertainment if you're a college football fan. If you're a Tennessee fan, you're like, kind of worried right now, but it's certainly not lacking for entertainment.
Eric, can you just give everybody a backdrop, where they can find your work?
Yeah, every single day, Locked On Vols podcast on YouTube, pretty much wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, all that and more. I've tried to get out as much content over the past few days regarding the Nico Iamaleava situation. Thursday with the initial report from Pete Nakos at On3, to after he missed practice Friday morning, to Chris Lowe and Pete Thamel on Saturday morning, to what Josh Heupel said Saturday night and all that. So kind of every stage of what's happened over the last 4 or 5 days, there should be an episode up there, the Locked On Vols YouTube channel. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at _Cainer. Interesting time for Tennessee. It's never dull here in Knoxville, but certainly when this story happens at the end of spring practice, there's a lot to talk about for sure. And we're going to do it all in the podcast.
Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate you coming on today. You can find the Portal Podcast, all the same places at Eric Cain. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Odyssey, YouTube, and everywhere else. Please like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review. This has been the Portal Podcast.